everybody. I hope you had an amazing, awesome day today. Finally, after I think about a week or two, we finally get the official results of what fan fiction you guys want me to read of X Virus, and we got the results. Now, everyone wants me to read Pandemic X Virus X Listener, and this is like 187 pages, so get ready to get ready, because the playlist that these stories are gonna be on is gonna be long. It's gonna be fucking long, unless the stories are short. But you never know, because I've had a story that was. So the story was like, it was like the first story I've ever read. If you go to my first ever video, that's the fan fiction I'm talking about. It was Not Expected, Jeff the Killer X Listener. Yes, I know, I keep bringing it up. That story, the chapters were so long. It was too long. Maybe because I was a beginner, but I still think it was too long. So that says something. Also, I would like to mention, if the author is seeing this, the ending sucked. That's all I wanted to say. Anyways, without further ado, let's read who the heck we are. Anyways, ever since the virus, the world and the life of Y and Ellen, a person in their final year of university, changed forever. As their study groups at the campus cafe and wild parties with friends morphed into mask, social distancing, and online learning, Wyan struggled to cope. After all, they were a social butterfly with many friends and few enemies. They were detested, feeling so isolated, always surrounded by people. They never had the chance to notice the strange boy that always seemed to lurk just on the edge of their peripheral vision. That is, not until the virus. Their friends laughed at them. Why would they choose such a weirdo? They obviously weren't fit for each other. He was weird. They were normal. He was a nobody. They were popular. They just didn't understand, but he understood. Why was it that he always knew just what they needed? And then it's loosely based on the short story I Know What You Need by Stephen King. And then they were like, I do not own X Virus, blah 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 blah. And there's might be some other creepypastas that make appearances in the store, which I'm like, ooh la la. I'm kind of excited for that. Ooh, I'm excited. And yes. Chapter 1. Experiments. FI equals first initial, and then that's just, if you guys don't know what an initial is basically the first letter of your first name and then the first letter of your last name, like put together. Like mine would be LI. Anyway, all around him, pieces of machinery beeped and lit up from time to time as his eyebrows furrowed in concentration. His green eyes zeroing on the small vial that he held ever so carefully in between his forefinger and thumb. Very carefully, so as to not accidentally drop his masterpiece. He spun around in his chair, so he was now facing a notebook that laid open, a page half filled with lab notes on the counter opposite of him. Picking up the pencil with his dominant hand while keeping a firm hold onto his glass vial with his right, he proceeded to write down a few more sentences concerning his last observation. Placing the vial back into its holder and quickly storing it into the sub-zero freezer so it wouldn't get ruined, he took a deep breath through his respirator. Pulling off his gloves that protected his pale skin from the deadly concoction that he was just handling, he then immediately sanitized his workstation, spinning around with a bit more vigor. Now that his creation was safely in the freezer, he excitingly bounced over to another workstation on the far side of the room and peered into a rather large plastic case that hibernated his current test subjects, rats. The case was divided into 3 sections. The first section was simply the control group, the rat that was perfectly healthy and that had been exposed to no illnesses or diseases of any kind. The next section housed a rat that he had injected with a very common illness, influenza type A. It looked very sick indeed, yet he expected that it would make a full recovery. The last section, however, hosted the rat that he had exposed to the same pathogen that was currently rested inside the vial that he had just been handling, and this was his current topic of interest. Blinking rather excitingly through his blue Wilder goggles, he giggled slightly before grabbing his pencil and recording a few more noteworthy symptoms that he had not yet had the opportunity to observe. All in all, this little rodent looked miserable. It had been apparent that it only had been about a week, if not yet mere days, from death. He wondered how long it would take for this rat to die, tapping the plastic a bit persistently with his pencil in an attempt to get the rat to move. He raised an eyebrow in intrigue as the rat merely laid on its side. It breathed quite shallow and barely even reacted to the irritating, and from the rat's perspective, most likely booming, noise that his pencil taps had ensued. Glancing at his notepad, he had determined thus far that his creation had a current mortality rate of 90%. That's rather high, he mused, considering the exceedingly few rats that had been actually lucky enough to make a recovery after being injected with his disease. Perhaps I need to take another look at this and re-engineer it. After all, I don't want it to be that bad. Just bad enough for... Allowing his thought to dissipate into silence, he grinned cutely behind his mask as his head tilted just a bit to the side, allowing his thoughts to finish within the safety and sanctuary of his own mind. "Hi, little rat," he then greeted, poking at the case once again with his pencil. "How long until you die, Laughing a bit this time, he wrote a few more things down on his notepad before snapping it shut and carelessly tossing it onto the counter behind him. He had been hard at work on his virus for about 6 hours now, so it only made sense that he was starting to lose his ability to focus. Of course, he was able to hyper-focus on things like this. However, even he had his limits. "Hurry up and die, okay?" he called out as he made his exit to his tiny little laboratory, flipping off the light as he left. "I want to finish my experience on rats so I can move out to my next phase of experimentation." Even after he left the room and went about his other daily activities, Cody's mind was completely clouded with thoughts concerning the vial he had left in his freezer. The vial that harbored the extremely deadly disease that he was engineering. It was only known as Project FI in his various lab notes. 6 months later. Allowing your head to fall to your desk with a dull thud, you let out a groan. You were just about done with this whole virtual thing bullshit. This was your last year of university, after all. Your senior year! It was supposed to be your best and most memorable. Actually, you were sure that it was going to be a memorable one, yet not for the reason that you wanted it to be. No, instead of going to parties, hanging out with your friends, going shopping, getting coffee, attending your exercise groups at the gym, or even working a part-time job and goofing off with your work buddies, you were instead spending your days shut inside of your dorm room and going to your lessons online. No longer did you even have the opportunity to skip a class from time to time and throw a frisbee in the campus courtyard with your friends. As now, you didn't really have the excuse. You could literally go to class wherever you were. Well, that would be fine and all, if only everything wasn't shut down. Very few places were open anymore, with only essential places remaining in business. No more restaurants, bouquet clothing stores, or bars. No more gossiping with your bestie in the caf while you sipped on your coffee, or going on a quote-unquote casual date with whoever your crush was at the time. Sure, you could get outside and take a walk, but everyone had to be covered with masks and socially distanced. Not that you minded the masks, but you couldn't deny that everything was getting old. All because of the pandemic. You supposed that it was rather selfish to feel this way. After all, it didn't seem to be rather a harsh, nasty disease, and no matter how you managed to chalk it up, people were dying from it. Certainly not a disease that you were interested in catching, nor did you want to spread it to others. Yet at the same time, could you really deny the mental, emotional, and social stress that such isolation brought on? This is when you start going online and trying making some good friends online. Now, some people might say that's bad, but I think it's good at some point, because you can find some really good, trusting friends online. But be careful. Anyway, letting out a sigh, you picked up your head from your desk and stared wistfully at the empty bed in your dorm room. The bed that used to belong to your roommate, Grace. You and Grace had grown quite close and had continued to choose to room together for every year of university. Yet, now due to the current circumstances that the pandemic brought on, all dorm rooms were for single use only. Your room had never felt so cold, so empty, and so lonely, without the company of your old roommate. Sighing, you pushed yourself away from your desk. Sure, classes wasn't completely over, but you only had about 5 minutes left. Nothing of interest would be happening for the next 5 minutes anyway. Letting out a stretch and grinning in relief at the sound of popping bones, you took a glance outside and saw that it was a rather sunny day. The perfect day for a stroll and maybe even a bit of ice cream. Without wasting any more time, you crammed your wallet into your pocket and ignored the sound of your professor calling out from the virtual lesson, wondering if anyone had any additional questions before the class was over, and made a hasty exit. No longer could you listen to that man's dull and boring voice anyway. You would certainly fall asleep. Almost as if on cue, a lazy yawn escaped your mouth, and you rushed over to cover it in embarrassment even though no one was there to see it anyway. Exiting your dorm building, you squinted slightly at the bright sun that managed to blind you after your time cooped up in the building and headed off in the direction of the main campus hub building. It was merely a common space that hosted several cafes, restaurants, books, and supply stores, computer labs, and various studies and sitting areas. Of course, due to the current social distancing restrictions, not all of the restaurants were open, and all of the seats and chairs to the study and lounge areas were approximately roped off in order to ensure that no two students were sitting too closely. Oh goodness. Pulling on your mask before entering the building, you noted that despite the current pandemic, the building seemed to be uncharacteristically crowded today. Entering the restaurant and the cafe area and immediately taking your spot in line, being mindful to stand on one of the floor markers clearly outlining for social distancing purposes. You patiently waited your turn. This brought you to your next dilemma. What flavor should you get? You were always rather indecisive about such things, and it always turned a simple trip to a restaurant or ice cream parlor into a complicated and drawn-out affair. Coincidentally, this was something that your ex-boyfriend had very little patience for. I think mint chocolate chip sounds good. How about you? A voice called out from behind you, and you couldn't help but jump about a foot in the air. The sound sounded way too close. Didn't this person know anything about social distancing? Turning around, you sent the boy a critical look, yet you couldn't help but allow the look to falter as you caught a glimpse of the innocently sweet glimmer of light that could be found in his green eyes. Slightly crinkled as he grinned widely at you from behind his mask. His messy brown hair slightly covered one eye, and you wondered if he had forgotten to comb it this morning. Yet you had to admit, it suited him well in a strangely adorable fashion. His simply black hoodie was wrinkled and crumpled, and his skinny jeans had a few rips in them. His black and white Converse sneakers cuffed and worn. "Oh, sorry," he instantly noted, taking a step away and standing on the marker on the floor behind you, which indicated a 6-foot distance between people waiting in line. I keep forgetting about the social distancing stuff. I guess it does take a while to get used to, you agreed, slightly nodding in his direction before turning your gaze back in front of you. Yet, it wasn't long before you took a glance back towards him. Maybe it was your tendency just to be social and strike up a conversation with just about anyone who exhibited a willingness to talk to you. Or maybe it was the strange attraction that you found towards him. Definitely strange, as he certainly could not be seen as one that you would normally be interested in. Yet you just couldn't help it. You found him strangely attractive. So, mint chocolate chip, huh? Yeah, the boy responded energetically, excitedly nodding his head. It's always been my favorite flavor. What's yours? That's not normally a flavor I'd go for, you admitted, smiling lightly at him all the same. Maybe it was just you, but you could have sworn that you saw his eyes light up like you'd never seen a person's eyes sparkle before as he caught sight of your grin. I'm a cookies and cream person myself. That's my second favorite. The boy snickered in what you assumed to be a joke. That would be way too coincidental. You laughed along. You got me. The boy shrugged. If they're out of mint, I'll normally just order strawberry. Oh, the line's moving. Looking ahead, you now realized that the line had moved several spaces ahead, and it was almost your turn. You had become so unintentionally absorbed in your conversation with the new boy that you had failed to even notice. Laughing a bit sheepishly, with the boy smiling in your direction and urging you forward with a little wave of his hand, you took your new spot in line, only to turn around once again and resume your socially distant conversation. You had no idea why you were so keen on talking to this boy. It's not like there was anything special about him. Maybe you were just too starved for any type of human interaction at this point, that you would take what you could get. Or maybe it was just that absolutely innocent way in which he smiled at you. What's your name, by the way? You asked, hoping that you would be able to exchange phone numbers with this boy. Cody, he responded, stretching out the way he said his name in a sing-song voice, before cutely tilting his head to the side and stuffing his hands into his pocket. What's yours? I'm YN, you answered, half tempted to stick a hand out for a handshake, yet refraining from doing so at the last minute. After all, you didn't want to offend him, or make him feel pressure to touch a stranger's hand in the midst of a global pandemic, after all. Cody grinned once again, and it looked like he was about to say something else, yet was caught off by the staff member of the ice cream parlor calling you forward, ready to take your order. Go on and order your cookies and cream, YN. If you want, you can join me for ice cream, and we can talk more. Nodding in agreement, you approached the counter and made your order. You weren't sure what came over you, as you ordered mint chocolate chip ice cream instead of cookies and cream. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Oh my goodness. I like that. Oh my goodness. Let's go on. Okay. Chapter 2, Roses. Whether or not Cody noticed that you had in fact ordered mint chocolate chip ice cream just like him, you were completely sure. Yet he had decided to not comment on your choice of flavor if he did. In fact, he seemed genuinely surprised that you had collected your dish of ice cream and stood to the side of the counter to wait for him while he finished up his order. Wasn't he the one that invited you to eat ice cream with him in the first place? It wasn't hard to miss the way his eyebrows shot up in surprise as he almost sheepishly made his way towards you. What? You challenged in a friendly manner, raising an eyebrow at him and grinning playfully behind your mask. Did you expect me to ditch you? Actually, yeah. He all but shyly admitted, before his timidness evaporated almost immediately as it was brought on. But I know this great place just outside where we can sit. You know the terrace? The building has a terrace? You asked in shock. How was it that this was your fourth and final year of attending this university, and you had never noticed a terrace? Oh, it's kind of hidden. Cody grinned at you widely from behind his mask. It's no surprise that you haven't found it yet. No one really knows about it. Where is it? You asked in interest, eyeing your ice cream and noticing it just barely beginning to melt as you continue to wait for Cody's orders to come up. Ah, it's melting. Cody laughed, seeming to notice too. Stir your spoon around the cup a little bit. That should do the trick. I'll bet you're glad you didn't order a cone, huh? That would have made a big mess. I never really order cones because I always drop them. You blinked at him, not totally sure if he was being cutely innocent or something else. Regardless, you took Cody's advice and stirred your ice cream around a bit in your small styrofoam dish, hoping that his order wouldn't take too much longer. If it did, you would probably be dealing with ice cream soup instead. Definitely not ideal. Maybe next time we should just order our stuff together, Cody suggested, smiling again as the girl behind the counter finally presented with his dish of mint chocolate chip ice cream, the same exact kind as you. And we're off, he announced rather lamely, taking the lead and gesturing for you to follow. The terrace isn't too far, I promise. We won't give your ice cream any more chances to melt. You merely blinked again. Your current state of silence and intriguing, rather uncommon for you. The way that he had spoken was definitely strange, and he was totally not the type of person that you would normally be interested in. So why did you feel so inclined to follow him? What was about him that made you feel so attracted to him? He was scruffy, scatterbrained, and admittedly looked a bit of a dork. While you normally went for people who were bit more sophisticated, mature, and a clean cut. He was definitely quirky, that was for sure, but you couldn't argue that he was undeniably charming, in his own obscure way, of course. Noticing that you had yet to follow, Cody looked at you over his shoulder in an effort to figure out what was the holdup. Unless you want your ice cream to melt? He asked, tilting his head a bit to the side again. Do you like melted ice cream? Oh, no, sorry, you muttered before laughing a bit at your own particular behavior. Let's go. I'd love to see that terrace, excuse me. Nodding his head and beginning to lead you out of the building and towards the supposed terrace. You weren't sure if you were surprised or not that Cody had managed to dominate the majority of the conversation. He merely chatted away about almost any random item or object that attracted his interest, such as the flower beds full of blue flowers that he absolutely adored, or the set of stairs that he accidentally tripped on the other week. It was a bit strange to be the listener instead of the talker for once, but the more you thought about it, the better it felt. Sometimes it felt nice not to feel the need to control or dictate a conversation. Either way, Cody seemed comfortable enough with all of the talking that he was doing, and he talked to you almost as if the two of you were old friends, and that just had a lot of catching up to do, and practically not strangers. And not practically strangers. So that's how I was almost late for the midterm exam last semester. Oh, we're here, Cody exclaimed, bringing his current story to a halt and gesturing for you to step past a few particular tall bushes that acted as a gateway of sorts. Well, it would seem that Cody was right. This terrace was definitely well hidden. It almost made you wonder how someone as admissed as Cody was not only able to find it, but remember where it was. This pathway to the terrace itself was winding and confusing. As you had to exit the building, walk around the perimeter, then take a few twists and turns through the beautifully maintained garden that wrapped around the entire backside of the building. The terrace itself was absolutely beautiful, and dare you say, slightly romantic. Even though it was a terrace, it wasn't open or spacious. It was surrounded by tall rose bushes, the flowers colored in a sweetly exotic pale pink. The shade that the bushes provided managed to make the entire area a bit more dim, pleasantly contrasting the brightness of the day. Small, black iron benches with arms and legs curling into the rose designs of their own were scattered about the terrace, and the entire place was illuminated with nothing but natural light. A light. Fresh breeze lazily blew through the area, causing you to breathe a sigh of relief, to be rid of the harsh, sticky early September heat and sun. It's beautiful here, you breathed, sinking into a nearby bench. How'd you find this place? I stumbled across it one day. I take a lot of walks around campus since I don't really have much else to do outside my studies, Cody admitted. It's a shame that no one really knows about it here. It doesn't really get the recognition that it deserves, does it? You commented, finally pulling your mask in order eat a spoonful of your ice cream. But if everyone knew about it, it wouldn't be peaceful, Cody pointed out, and you found yourself nodding in agreement, taking in this new, introverted perspective. Once again, Cody managed to surprise you. Judging on how giddy, talkative, friendly, and utterly likable he was, you would have imagined that he would be rather extroverted and have many friends. It felt strange, hearing him say that he had nothing to do around campus, when in reality, there were loads of activities. There were clubs for people with just about any interest or hobby, study groups, volunteer activities, part-time job opportunities, and the like. Well, at least there were. Before the pandemic, of course. Cody called out for your attention, and you looked up at him, almost now noticing that he was still standing a bit awkwardly in pace. Do you mind if I sit next to you? He then asked, gesturing towards the empty seat on the bench next to you. Oh, of course, you gasped. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. No, it's okay. Cody cut you off. I just didn't know how comfortable you would be with sitting to some stranger, considering the pandemic and that we have to have our mask off to eat and everything. I don't mind. You smiled lightly. To be honest, I'm still not quite used to the new social norms and mannerisms that came with the pandemic and mass culture. Upon receiving your confirmation, Cody sat himself down next to you, being sure to leave a bit of space in between the two of you, yet not a huge amount, as the size of the bench simply did not allow for much more. You wanted to roll your eyes and scoff at the current pounding of your heart at the closeness between the two of you. Seriously, what had gotten into you? Reaching up, Cody pulled his mouth down to his chin, and you were granted your first oh my gosh, this word, bro. Unobstructed view of his face. You kind of wish that you weren't eating ice cream at the moment, so you can pull your own mask back up. Not in an effort to protect yourself from potentially catching the virus, but so that you could instead conceal the blush that was currently crossing your cheeks. He was absolutely adorable. It managed to contrast so vastly with all your previous ex-boyfriends, dates, and crushes. From the few freckles splashed across his cheeks and nose to the very small yet noticeable gap between his two front teeth. He was flawed and imperfect, yet he managed to cause your breath to become lodged in your throat. The smile that he sent you upon pulling down his mask revealed a dimpled grin, and you didn't fail to notice a small, modest-sized stud piercing in his tongue. Why are you so freaking cute? You mentally screamed at him and forced your eyes embarrassingly down to your ice cream, praying that he didn't catch on due to the fact that you were massively attracted to him. So, Cody continued, almost as if there had been no interruption or dramatic face reveal, and took a bite of his ice cream before bringing up his next topic of interest. What classes are you taking this semester? Obviously, not all online classes, since you seem to live on campus. This much was true. In fact, the majority of students, for at least this semester, were not currently living on campus, as the vast majority of classes were online, and there was no need to live on campus. Yet, in your particular situation, you had one class that was in person. For some reason, however, your mind had blanked, and you couldn't recall the name of that course. Strange. I do have an in-person class. You hesitantly began to speak, realizing that Cody was currently waiting on your answer. Whether or not he would patiently wait was hard to determine at this point. Yeah? Cody asked, sticking his plastic spoon into his mouth and deciding to speak around for some odd childish reason, and raising an eyebrow in your direction. What is it? It's, You stuttered slightly, attempting to collect your thoughts, allowing your eyes to lock onto Cody's green ones. Your memory almost instantly rekindled as you finally recalled the name of your course. Bio. It's a bio lab. You finally stated with confidence, although you had to say that the extremely bizarre sensation of randomly forgetting the name of one of your courses was just a bit embarrassing. Ooh, I love biology, Cody amusingly commented, pulling his spoon out of his mouth in a rather lively movement, almost as if to confirm his love for the subject. I've taken a bunch of courses. Is that your major? You asked in interest. once again, easily falling into conversation with Cody and leaving your awkward moment behind you. I'm a chemistry major and a biology minor, Cody announced. Science is my jam. Really? You question? I find it a bit difficult. I actually don't really know how I'm going to get through this course alive. I knew I had to take it since it is a requirement for my major, but I've been putting it off since freshman year. Now I guess I gotta get through it somehow. Ooh, I'll help you any day, Cody swore, pressing his hands to his heart for emphasis. Hey, can I have your number? If you ever need help with your homework or studying for a test, hit me up. I can definitely make time for you. You know what? I think I'll take you up on that offer. You grinned. I think that I will absolutely need your help. After all, you weren't planning on parting ways with him. Not without getting his phone number. Oh my god, Cody. Oh my god, period. Bro, he sound like he got some sympathy on him. Oh my goodness. Y'all, I did not expect that, and that's a little long. Oh my goodness, the chapter is 33 minutes. Or actually, it's going to be shorter. Excuse me, like, the current time I'm recording this, like, the current time now I'm recording this is, like, 33 minutes, but it's probably going to either be shorter or longer for you guys, but for me currently reading, it's 33 minutes. Oh, goodness. Well, I'm excited to read all these chapters. I think some of them are author's notes, but it's okay. I'm going to read all of them anyway. I'm so excited. What do you guys think is going to happen next, by the way? What do you guys think so far? I think this story is amazing, bro. Like it's, for me, first impressions, it's written really well. I like the way it's written. It has some words that I cannot pronounce for the life of me. And like, I don't know, I got them big words. It's really nicely written. I like the way it's been written. I also don't know if you guys know this about me, because in some fan fictions, you guys notice, like, for first time writers, their writing is really squished together and it's not like separated like this one is. As you can see, like, at least 1 or 2 separations once in a while. I do not like those stories because everything's squished together. For me, it makes it hard to read, or it just, I don't know, it's my pet peeve, really. Anywho, alongside that, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and y'all better be this already better be done by the time y'all watching this video. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing videos, because obviously there's going to be amazing videos, because hello, I'm Dreamland. A period. Material girl. If you guys have any type of more suggestions that you would like to suggest to me to read or anything like that, let me know in the comments down below. Out talking as much as I've already done today. Yo, girls gotta go. I hope you guys have an amazing, awesome day. Stay safe out there. Yo, girls gotta go. Bye and peace. So here's my explanation of why I do not or did not like the ending. So first things first. Again, not expected, just the killer's listener. So basically, long story short, to kind of summarize the whole story, Jeff the Killer had to go across to a new city and whatnot, ended up randomly meeting us. Then they slowly start connecting, becoming friends. Then he slowly starts kind of pushing her, just kind of nudging her towards the killer's end and making her believe that I'm gonna bring you here with me, we're gonna be together forever. And she ends up killing certain people, doing certain things, and then at the end of all that, after they connected, loved each other, it was great moments. At the end, Slenderman finally came for Jeff the Killer. He was like, hey, can I take us? And he was like, no, and blah 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 blah. So Jeff the Killer had no choice but to leave us. But Slenderman, with the exception, he erased our memories, and we end up at the hospital, but we don't remember what we did, and Jeff the Killer's nowhere to be seen. Like, we don't know who we are, we don't know what we did, nothing. So he practically left us with nothing. So, yeah. That's why I did not like it, the ending at all. Maybe it might be different now if they edited it or something like that. But I'm telling y'all, it was the worst ending possible because I didn't even end up finishing the story at all because of that ending, bro. I was really upset because back then I was like, okay, like I can't read it or else I won't read it. Like I won't read it to everyone, and that's now false. Even if I read it, I'm still read it to you guys. It's just, you know, character development up in here. So yeah, that's kind of why I hate it. I probably already explained this like multiple times in other videos, but you know, I haven't mentioned it a little bit, but now it's time to mention it. That's kind of the reason. I also hated it because I guess in the realization of all this, 1, we have nowhere to go. 2, we have no memory of who we are, and 3, the closest people that we had are dead, pretty much. They're dead. So, yeah. Anyways, that's all. Have fun, y'all. Bye and peace.